justice, as well as increasing the visibility of Black-led narratives and work, and advancing Black-led visions for just and sustainable communities, and building capacity for self-determination for our local, national, and international food systems. So we focus on food sovereignty, self-determining food economies, and land justice. We currently have a large member base. We're over 40 members and growing and land stewards based in Eastern, Midwestern, Southern, and Western United States. We also have some subgroups of academics that we affectionately call Black academics who also support our work as well as some individual members. And so we've been working for quite a few years to build intergenerational urban and rural alliance of organizations to map, assess, train, and deepen the organizing, institution building, and advocacy work protecting Black land and working towards food sovereignty. I'm excited to have with me on the panel today some of our members and to allow you to, I think the best way to learn about the Alliance is through our members and our work, what we do, and I think this was the best way to display that. So I have Germaine Jenkins. She co-founded Fresh Future Farm in Charleston, North Charleston, South Carolina. She earned a commercial urban agriculture certification from Growing Power Inc. She won Seed Capital Star Urban Farm and Grocery Store that same year. She's also a culinary school graduate, so hook you up from the other side. She spent a lot of years working in nonprofits and then decided to focus on community revitalization. And so through the operations with Fresh Future Farm, she also started a sliding scale grocery store in the middle of a residential neighborhood. And then once she was inspired, as she mentioned in our breakout, by Black Urban Growers Conference, she also started the first South Carolina Black Farmers Conference as well. And so hopes to resume that after the pandemic slows, but please welcome Germaine to the panel. Also on the panel, we have Tanya Denise Fields. She is the executive director of the Black Feminist Project, which she started in 2009 as a response to sexist institutional policies, structurally reinforced cycles of poverty, and harsh inequities in wealth and access to capital as a result that result in far too many women being unable to rise out of poverty and sustain their families. She is a single mother herself, so that makes her even, I think, inspired her even more and makes her just super committed to the work. I love her personality. She's life in the room. And so I'm excited for you to get to know more about her. She's been covered in her work with Black Feminist Project in the New York Times, MSNBC's The Melissa Harris Perry Show, the New York Daily News, and numerous other print and digital platforms. And she also has numerous fellowships and commitment to professional development that's connected her with on a national level around social justice. And so I'm excited to have Tanya join us. And then last but never least is Tosha. Tosha is a part of our leadership team. She is the co-founder and the director of food justice advocacy and the co-founder and director of Evolve. And so they have a mission of building community-driven platforms that activates the creation of equitable food systems and built environments that support the well-being of St. Louis. Whenever Tosha's in the room, there's an army of Toshas. Tosha is so great at spreading the word, like getting people in the room. You look in your Zoom queue and see who's there, and there might be 15 other Tosha Phonixes in there. So she always has an entourage coming through. She's never alone. And so I'm excited to have Tosha with me here as well. I also thought it was good to show the breadth of the geography of the Alliance. So I picked some dope Black women from all parts of the country so you could see what we have to offer from that. But I will pause here because I want to give you time to hear from the main spotlight this evening. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat box. We'll definitely leave time for those and try to integrate them in as we go through this evening. And definitely excited always to hear from the audience and make this as interactive as possible. But to go ahead and jump into so you can hear from the panelists, I have a question out to our panelists is, why food and land and what set you on this path? And I will start with Tanya.
Hello, everyone. So good to be with you all this evening, afternoon, depending on where you all are. So Cicely, the question was, why food and land? It was kind of a two-part question, right?
Yes, and like what set you off on this path that led you
great.
to,
There was like a second part
and all that. Yeah.
Yes, I'm hopped up on espresso and a protein shake. So why food and land? I think as the descendant of enslaved Africans, for me, it was always, why not food and land, right? I think that when I think about myself as an inhabitant on stolen land in this country, that was literally, this capitalist system was literally built on the bodies of Black folks. It's always been about the theft and the displacement, right, of land. And so for me, food and land and access to it for African peoples is about, you know, what we would call reparations, right? But also there is this part of me that is always confounded and astounded. Let me tap into my inner Jesse Jackson here. I'm always confounded and astounded by this idea that humans who are a part of the ecological system, no matter how much we think that we're supposed to dominate it, we're actually a part of the ecological system, would actually tell folks that they have to pay, or that there is some sort of metric or some sort of transaction that they have to engage in to have access to land and have access to quality and sustainably and locally grown food. And so when you think about the disparities and who exists at the margins of the margins, right? When we talk about poverty in this country, right? Because when we talk about food and access, when we talk about food injustice, really what we are talking about is poverty, right? And we know that poverty is used as a tool to cripple certain folks. And if we are not having a conversation about how poverty is racialized, if we are not having a conversation about how poverty is gendered, then we're not having a conversation, right? And so we know that at the margins of the margins, right, those who are the most disenfranchised, those who feel the negative impacts of inaccessibility the deepest, are Black women, Black femmes, Black children. And so it was really important to me that when we thought about how we get good quality food in our community, that it wasn't just about us lobbying to get a whole paycheck, a Whole Foods, right, around the corner, which is only going to catalyze gentrification, right? I grew up in Harlem. I've been in the Bronx, and I'm 10 toes down for the Bronx for the last 20 years. But I ended up here by way of gentrified Harlem, right? And so I had that lived experience. And that also, with the lived experience of being a young mother who was displaced here, 22 years old, one infant in tow, making my way through school, also, heavily pregnant with another baby coming in an emotionally abusive relationship in substandard housing, thinking about the nuance of how all of those things affect the way we eat, right? Often we get into these spaces with public health advocates and they're like, if we just teach people how to use wheat germ, then they'll eat better. First of all, nobody's eating that shit. It's not culturally relevant to Black folks, right? Number two, the fact is, physiologically, our brains are hardwired to like salt, sugar, right? And fat. And if you are living in a community where everything is already so hard, then salt, sugar, and fat is what you're gonna go for. It has nothing to do with our inability to know how to cook food. We taught Americans how to eat as Black people, right? It has nothing to do with, accessibility. In the last 20 years, they've thrown 1 million farmers markets up in the Bronx. It has to do with the fact that there is also trauma that is involved in our lives. And for many of us, food is an outlet. And so if we want to fix the way that people eat, then we need to be fixing the way that people live.
Thank you. She never disappoints. Go ahead, Tasha. Jump in here. So why food?
I don't know if I can follow up with it. I just want to be an audience member now. I just want to listen now. Carry on. No. For me, it was about everything that Tanya just named. what do we have in our community? You know, it's also, for me, it's about the resiliency, the self-determination that I've seen and I've watched, you know, growing up, that has always been in our community. That's always, well, we've always been able to feed ourselves. We've always been able to come together and be able to come up with the solutions to the problems that we didn't create. And so for me, simply put, it was what attracted me to like this work and doing this work, was the self-determination. My grandmother is from the South. And so to know that why why my grandmother and her family left the South to come up to a place that's just a little bit more up the South ladder, you know, was just for better treatment. And to know that you know, just the mistreatment in the South, and to know that they were, in a sense, ran from the South, ran from the land, ran from community, because my whole family uprooted themselves from people they knew from slavery, honestly. And so that breakdown of self-determination, that breakdown of what drew me into wanting to do this work, is to preserve that self-determination and preserve that community. Because as Tanya said, when you see gentrification, you start to look at also the breakdown of community that existed within us. You start to see them displacing us in different places. And it breaks down that culturally what we know as hey, I know your neighbor. You know, hey, you know, you can rely on your neighbor to look out for you. And so like for me, it's about self-determination, and it's about just that community that's always been there for us, and us always looking within community to solve our problems and not looking outside of community.
Thank you. Germaine, so why food and land? Like, what set you off on this path?
Well, you know, like, you know, Tanya was talking, sounded a little very familiar. You know, I was 25, I think, when I, you know, became a single mom with my eldest kid, and, you know, like had to resort to, you know, like food stamps, you know, like that monthly check while I was going to school. And I was like, how in the world is it that, you know, me, like 25 years later, like this smartphone, like has been adapted how many times in the course of a year? How is it that the you know, the food stamp system and all of these things haven't changed in 25 years? That doesn't make any sense unless it's intended for that to happen. And, you know, I came to, because, you know, my accent is way up Ohio, but I was born in South Carolina. And I learned through a documentary that they're making about, you know, our challenges, that my family ended up moving to Ohio because my dad came back radicalized from, you know, being a vet, and was kind of run out of town because he wouldn't put up with injustice. And that was not allowed or tolerated, you know, back in the 70s. So here I am, however many years later, you know, left public housing downtown, got a degree, everything that the nonprofit industrial complex said I needed to do in order for my family to be successful, we did. And we moved into a home in 2007. 8 years later, my eldest goes to college and is saddled with student loan debt, just like me. So I became radicalized then, and I guess impolite with a smile on my face. Wow, this is not going to stand. So like, I'm a grandmother now, and my grandchild will not endure like what I've had to endure, what her great-great-grandmother has had to endure. It ends with me. So what we're doing at Fresh Future Farm is creating the space that I needed when I was a single mom, where our store manager is on 5 months paid maternity leave right now. So that's the way it has to be. Like, and what we're doing is educating people that these systems that they were told that nonprofit industrial complex is just a poorly thought out Ponzi scheme that is like benefiting like the middle class and nobody else. And if it's up to them, like we will just be dead, depressed, and unable to stand up for ourselves. So my mission is to crumble that to the ground.
Yes, thank you. So now to speak more about the Alliance and your organization's relationship with the Alliance, I wonder, Tosha, I'll start with you as a member of the leadership team. So talk about, why join the Alliance? Like what brought you to the Alliance? And then like, how long have you been a member? And, how does your organization show up as a part? Because I do think it is a unique concept that it's not just a membership where like, oh, we were all insurance brokers and we get together and like have drinks. Like, the Alliance is its members. Like, as a staff person, I'm not sitting in and coming up with ideas. I'm here to support the members and what they would like to do. And so, curious from the members, like, what made you come across Black food justice and like, I want to join.
So I need to do a commercial. I just need to do the Alliance commercial. It's funny because my family, I don't really think they know what I do. But today my cousin got to asking a whole bunch of questions. She's like, wait, what is this you're doing? And I got the privilege of being able to explain to her the Alliance and then showing her the amazing Black organization that the Alliance is. And just like how what I say, y'all creating a Black movie at the Alliance. So why the Alliance? I had been following the Alliance for some time. A friend of mine that I met in Detroit, I was like, how can we do and build out food justice in St. Louis? And he's like, you should follow the Alliance and you should reach out to them and be a part of it. And immediately I tell the story of how I got on the website and was like, oh, I'm in love. This is amazing. This is amazing. And so, I was just captivated by the work that was being done. And so then I had applied and I joined. And so I thought I was a member for a long time. I was just joking. I applied and I joined, and as I was building out food justice in St. Louis and trying to really advocate for Black farmers in my region, I will watch the work being done, and I will be like, it will be captivating and it will be motivating, and it actually honestly kept me from giving up. Because there was a lot of times that I really wanted to give up. A lot of times I was like, I just can't do this. Maybe I'm not the person for this. And then I would see the work happening on a national level, and I would be like, man, I gotta get help. I gotta get help for my city, my community, my region. And so I had the opportunity to meet. I met Germaine that year too at the Bugs conference. And I was like, look, we need help. And I had never met a group of Black people that were so willing to help. And so that's why the Alliance. I've never I'm in a very, very hyper segregated city, and Black people weren't allowed to be the heroes in this city. And you go from that to a space like the Alliance where that's all you see is Black heroes and Black women heroes, and so I was like, I gotta be a part of this. I was like, I got to be a part of this. And so I went through the methods. I gathered up farmers that were in the region who had felt the burn of not succeeding and being able to and really wanting to succeed in this. And I'm like, just follow me. Like we gonna be a part of this dope ass group. And we did. And that's why so many, as much as I can, I see farmers that's out here struggling. I'm like, come to the Alliance. Because listen, y'all making superheroes right now. Y'all making superheroes right now. So yeah, that's why the alliance for me, it made sense. It made sense. I've also never, I worked in nonprofit work for a long time, and I've never seen an organization as well put together as the Alliance. And it from the deepest sense of my being, it makes me proud to be a part of it, to see the work that's been laid, to see, you know, just the member orgs that are a part of it, to see that, you know, somebody fighting for us, because man. So yeah, that's my why.
Thank you. I wonder which bugs conference.
I can go on. Let me just tell you, I can go on.
Go ahead.
That's why I said I need to do a whole commercial. I just need to do a whole commercial.
Yeah, so I'm curious, Germaine. Well, A1, what bugs conference was that? And then Germaine, if you could speak to, you know, your organization's experience with the Alliance as well. Conference.
It was the October 2019 in New York conference. And before the conference, I got to do the Soul Train line at Tosha Fields' farm. And I was like, wait a minute. Like, I can go and not be in a room of folks that don't look like me, Soul Train line, and then learn in community and liberation with people. Yes, please. So, yeah, I mean, I couldn't stop talking about it, and just like, I feel just like Tosha that in South Carolina is weird because a lot of the enslaved Africans came through South Carolina. So a lot of folks can trace their ancestors here. And, you know, like, you know, and just like Cleveland, where I grew up, you know, there's a well-to-do neighborhood, like right next to communities that are falling apart. And when I moved here, I lived downtown Charleston in public housing. At that time, there was 65% African-Americans, and now there's 20%. And I'm 10 miles up the road from them. And the same thing is happening in the community where we work at Fresh Future Farm. And I'm out here in these streets telling people that you don't have to, like, poverty porn is not a solution. Like, look for things, you know, support organizations and groups that are giving folks liberation and not Band-Aids. So what being part of National Black Food and Justice Alliance has done for me is I got to taste liberation because, you know, with my culinary degree, I thought the end all be all was a closed loop food system. But what I'm finding, because, you know, as I sit here on this, you know, prepping for this call today, the first time in 14 years, they paved the street where I live, because it's gentrifying at lightning speed. That in order for us as Black farmers to be stable, we need to build these land trusts, because everything that the city is trying to do to us, you know, they won't be satisfied until we're living in the ocean. So we got to do what we have to do before it's too late to make sure that we as Black farmers are stable. And because of the National Black Food and Justice Alliance, I came home and said, oh, we can't just have that in New York, we got to do it in South Carolina. So the coalition came because of what I was able to see and experience in bugs.
Thank you. Tanya, how did you come to the Alliance? What's your experience?
So first, it's a very simple question, but I'm super emotional right now. A lot of because of what Tosha said. I don't know how to exist in the world as a Black woman right now. I really don't. Like, between what's happening in Texas, how hard it is to exist in this nonprofit industrial system, constantly feeling like I gotta beg for money, like I have to highlight everything that's wrong with my community. It's hard, I'm tired. And most days I do not want to do this shit. And the short answer is Dara made me be a part of the coalition. You know, I didn't really have a choice. But I'm so glad that she was so insistent, that she really felt like the work that I've been doing here in the Bronx, particularly for Black people and folks of African descent in this community, that oftentimes, while it is a Black community, is overshadowed by a very non-Black Latin narrative. And the contributions that we make here are not acknowledged. And so quite often we have to fight the systems of white supremacy as they exist with white people in the larger part of the city and all over the country. And then folks that you would think that you would be in allyship with, you have to contend with that as well. And here in the Bronx, folks do not want to really unpack the ways in which Latin communities also perpetuate anti-Blackness in their own communities, and then with Black people, non-Latin Black people. And so sometimes I feel very isolated with all of that going on and just what it means to be Black and femme in this country. And so for me, being a part of this coalition has really helped to sustain, right? So many of us do this work, and it can feel like trying to pour liquid into a cup with a hole in it. It does not matter how fast you pour and how much you pour into it. If you do not have something to fill that hole, then it is like it is futile. And that's why we see so many of us burn out. So for me, the coalition has given me that. It has given me this, it has let me know that there's a community of us, even if it's not here in New York, right? But all across the country who are doing this work, right? Black farmers, right? It is Black. The irony is that it is literally the theft of Black physical labor that has helped build this country. And then when you look at how many of us have access to land, it is so few of us, right? It is like a slap in the face. It is insulting, but to know that there are so many people who understand the deep injustice of that, who are working towards, saying that, not just give us access to land, but you owe us fucking reparations. And you owe us reparations now. And you owe us reparations with inflation and interest, has helped me, been one of the things to help me sustain continuing to do this work and seeing sort of the magic and the joy and the resilience, right? And the vulnerability of all of us who are doing it. And the other piece is that it is, for the last couple years, there has been this thing in the back of my head that keeps telling me it's time for you to go home, right? Now, I always think of myself as a Yankee, but that's not home for me. Half of the Black people in this country live down south. And so I am ready to come home. And so being a part of the alliance has single-handedly been the thing that has finally pushed me over that precipice of saying that it's time for me to transition down to the South. So I've been looking at Georgia, but I'm also open to South Carolina. I'm also open to North Carolina. But I just know that I gotta get up out of New York. And so being with in community with folks who who have a greater understanding of what rural farming looks like, and where I humbly come to be a student all over again, has also been it's just been really good for my soul.
Can I add something?
Go ahead.
Tanya said, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing your story. I would just like to say that Dora is phenomenal. And I'm saying this because as Tanya was talking, it made me realize like how much appreciate, like I'm big on giving people their flowers now. And this time of watching her and getting to know her and what I've learned from her, especially, like I already love Black people, but I ain't think I can love Black people more. Right. And so just seeing her make me appreciate not just Black people, but Black women on a whole nother level that honestly that I'm not sure that I even knew that I possessed or didn't. And so like just watching her love us and watching her love Black women is grateful. I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful to see that, and also for believing in us, because one of the things is that like what the quality of what she sees in us you know, and the potential of what we can be. And so I just wanted to take the opportunity in that time to give her flowers now, because as Tanya was talking, I just thought that was important. And that's what I always draw, because I'm always learning from her, more watching her than our conversations. Honestly, I was just watching her and I'm like, oh man, she moved with integrity. And you know, this has been so long since we done seen leadership that done move with integrity, and that is, you know, I tell people all the time, when Michelle Obama said take the high road, she wasn't talking about Black people taking the high road for white people. She was talking about us taking the high road for each other.
And the way that like the nonprofit industrial complex works, they want us to compete against each other instead of work together. That's part of the power. And that's, you know, the strength of the National Black Food and Justice Alliance, and held together by the DJing skills of Wandara Cooper. So it's just, I can't even tell you just how beneficial it has been to us, and to those other people that I look to as like a fangirl in our meetings. So
awesome. It's funny you said that. I was just saying the other day, you know, I started in January, and sort of knew of Dara before then, but I told her, I was like, I feel like I just recently like stopped just being a fangirl and like a real like colleague, and not like being in awe, like, man, I don't know, you sure you want to hire me? Like, and so, you know, no, it is awesome that we all come together. And I do think, yeah, to have a deeper appreciation for us that I didn't think that was possible. Is I think, yeah, you all have summed it up really perfectly. I want to open it up to our audience this evening and see if you have any questions for my bad lady team in tow, or just, you know, questions you want to follow up on, things I didn't ask. Feel free to unmute yourself and jump in, or if you want to drop it in the chat box, I'm happy to read it from the chat box as well. Everyone's thinking, because I could lob another question. We all go ahead, Jeff.
First of all, thank you. This is so powerful. I mean, the incredible work that you're doing, and then the love and respect that you're modeling, it's just so powerful, so beautiful. So my question is, what do you want? What do you need? How can we be allies?
Deb, that's a great question. Thank you. You know, I'm always talking about what I want, what I need. And then when it's actually asked in a serious way, I find myself shirking, because Black women are so often conditioned to be selfless and to be mules, and to fall into the mammy trope of constantly feeling like we've got to take on everything, and that it's somehow not gracious of us to really, you know, be audacious and dream. For Black women to dream and to vision really is audacious. So I'm trying to break that. So I say all that to say we need money. And we need, I'm speaking, when I say we, I'm talking about the Black Feminist Project. I'm only going to speak for myself. Right now, we've been really struggling to raise like another $25,000 for the end of this year. I've been late on payroll. I've had to let some folks go. We had one staff member who quit, and as sad as I was to see them go, I was like, because I was just like, I've been living on credit cards and paying for stuff out of my own money. And, you know, as a heterosexual-ish woman, it's been good to have a partner who can fill in the blanks, you know, and I don't think we talk enough about the privilege of being partnered. For many of us, like this last 2 years, I would not have been able to get through if it had not been for partial financial support from my partner. So we are trying to fill that $25,000 debt. And then Dara has been giving me some coaching. And so I am in need as a burgeoning executive director. I've been doing this for 10 years and I've been calling myself an executive director in name. But in the last 2 years, I've had to actually be an executive director. Like I have a legitimate organization now, payroll and expenses. And we opened a community center and we've got to do programming. I was like, oh shit, this is very different. I was all online before #boss bitch. Yeah, it felt good. And then I really became the boss and I was like, I wasn't ready. I don't want to do this anymore. So I am always very open to learning more, to offers of coaching around management, around fundraising, one of the things I've been talking to Dara about is that we want to move the organization towards doing more base building so that we can start going more into policy work. I think that cash poor and working class women have a lot more power than they realize, and yet often they are overlooked when it comes time to organize. I want to put 100 women on welfare on a bus and take them to DC and raise hell. You know what I'm saying? I want the long eyelashes, the long fingernails, the knockoff bags. I want it all down in DC, showing up and showing out. And so I know that I need a little bit more training around what it means to take my organization from just direct services to organizing and base building and movement building. So if anybody has any technical and professional development resources, that'd be great. And if y'all are, they threw the link up there. I'll throw my link in the website. But if folks also want to share our campaign with folks in their networks, that would be awesome as well. Thank you, Deb. I appreciate that.
Thank you. I've got some connections. I'll follow up. Thank you.
Cool. And then if I can ask Germaine, I know you and I were chatting too. I know there's a link around the film and some other stuff too.
Yeah. I mentioned briefly, we started working on a documentary called Rooted, Food Justice in America, way back in early 2018. We're still working on it, and we thought it would come out in January 22, but it looks like January 2023 that it'll be out. But the premise of the movie is, because you've read about, the struggles, you hear us talking about, how we are diminished in our communities, even though we might be celebrated nationally. So you'll see how that plays out for me, and what's happening for me in North Charleston. The land that we use, which is less than an acre, we have over 50 fruit trees. It looks like a tropics. We don't use irrigation, but we still can't. We have to beg for money in South Carolina. So. But the other thing that's, as I've become more radical with the coalition and stuff, I said to you, Tanya, that you need to stay or go to Georgia, because we have had to add armed security to our budget, because Dylan Roof types are now circling the space. I have 2 weapons in my house because of us having to protect ourselves. So for our stability and us to be able to replicate what we're doing, what we're trying to do is promote the film, when it comes out, because part of the social impact campaign surrounding that film will be, there'll be opportunities for people to support Black land banks, not only in South Carolina, but across the country.
Man, you hit me. Germaine, you hit me with that when I was like, yeah, this is still the South. Still the South. For me, I think that it's a little bit more complex. God says complex in St. Louis. I think people are ready to give me money to shut me up, because they're like, all right, Tosha, here, please stop doing articles on us. And so I think one of my biggest things is burnout. I'm burnt out. My growers are burnt out. I'm the only one fighting. And they're fighting with me, but as far as organizations fighting for our community, there's no organizations really fighting like we see. We see, the Black Feminist Project fighting, or we see, you know, Fresh Future Forms fighting. I don't have a lot of people in my city that's fighting with me. I had a lot of people that's like, hey, we can get this grant. And I'm like, yeah, morally, I'm not even finna touch it. And so I think like Tanya said, you know, just skills on how to avoid burnout. Cause like I'm talking to people about money and they want to give money and they don't have a problem with giving money. I'm burnt out because I got like three growers who are having land issues and I don't want to fight it. I don't want to fight because I don't have the capacity to fight. I don't have the capacity to fight because I'm trying to make sure that they get funding to even build up on what they're doing now. And so I think like for me, just if there's training, I'm always willing to learn, and I'm always willing to grow, and how to navigate things. I mean, y'all can send like 20 people that's not originally from St. Louis to St. Louis with a non-St. Louis mindset. I'll be grateful. No. But no, so mine isn't necessarily, it isn't, not that money isn't an issue. That's not the biggest thing for me, because I had to have a conversation with my co-director, and she said, do we really, like, we have money, do we need to be applying for some of these grants? Is that where our time is spent wisely? And it's not. Because, you know, we work on behalf and advocate on behalf of Black farmers on one end, and then we help community members understand the political process on the other end. And so we have money we're safe. We never could be too safe, but we have all these other issues that we can't even tackle because of capacity. So I don't know how to ask for that help.
Well, I can say it. If y'all really want to have us three have peace and other members of the alliance have peace, it would be a beautiful thing if like 2 to 3 years of our operating expenses were covered. Then, you know, completely sleep at night.
Yeah.
All right. So we're coming.
I want to like not just. So one of the things that I'm trying to figure out. So I also am the creative director, host, and you know, and founder of this like brand called Mama Tanya's Kitchen. That exists mainly on Instagram, and that came out of me doing like these, what I called fast food in a snap, as a play on like Snap Dollars, cooking demos, where I would go outside of McDonald's and cook things for people and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And then people who were not in the city, could not afford to bring me out, were asking me to do them online. And then before you knew it, I realized that there was really a space for this in the lifestyle genre. But what it also made me realize too was like, I have the very hard time getting people to donate $20 to my organization. But when I started making pesto and I started canning like surplus from the farm, people, and I was like, oh yeah, a 4-ounce jar of pesto will cost you $12. A 16-ounce, 16-ounce jar of Italian plums that we had left over that were grown on Governor's Island will cost you $20. People were buying 2 and 3 at a time. And what I started realizing was that I don't want my organization to only exist in the philanthropy silo. Like, I am trying to figure out how to create an organization that is a hybrid, right? So I've been bringing more of the Mama Tanya's Kitchen piece into the work that we do, having pop-up brunches, right? Where like next month, we're going to have an ice cream social, and we're going to bring in a social worker to talk about radical Black parenting, right? So people are going to come because they think that I'm making ice cream, and they just want to come and have empty calories and have a good time, because that is also valid, right? This idea that Black people are only supposed to work, right? And it's all about labor, and that us having a good time is not valid. Let me tell you something, radical joy for Black people, that's revolution in this country, because this country, like Toni Morrison said, like, it's a distraction. They tell you that you're not creative, so you spend all this time trying to prove to them that you're creative. They tell you that you're not smart, so you spend all this time trying to show them that you're smart. And then what it does is snatch up all the time for you to actually invest in yourself and bring to fruition the best possibilities of who you are and how you see yourself. And so for us to do this work, we've got to root ourselves in radical joy. We have to understand that rest is revolutionary. We have to understand that doing what we love and who we are outside of the white gaze is a beautiful thing as well. And that is just as valid, if not more valid, than writing grants and marching and organizing. Because how else do you continue to build resiliency if you're not planted in anything that makes you feel good? And so I've been trying to figure out how we bring those two pieces together and how we diversify our streams of income that are not totally reliant on philanthropy and fundraising in the traditional sense. And then how do we, when we do write grants, how do I take that language that I just gave y'all and put it in a grant and not have a funder look at me like, this bullshit, girl. How many hundreds of pounds of food did you grow? How many people do you feed? I don't want to hear nothing about you throwing parties for Black people because they need joy. But that's valid. And I think they should give me money to do it.
Yes.
And I know enough when to drop the mic. So it is 7 o'clock. I want to honor your time. And I don't know that anything ever needs to follow Tanya. And so I will send it back over to Sabrina. But I so appreciate the space. I appreciate your candor and time this evening. Thank you to Germaine, Tosha, and Tanya for joining me on this. I'm sure you have millions of things to do in your world at this time of the day, but I appreciate you for coming out and showing out as always. Much love.
Yes, thank you, all of you. And I love that we are ending on this note of being rooted in joy. I think it is so important. That is something that our Giving Circle talks about a lot. And on that note, I actually want to turn it over to Dara, who's been getting so much love. And I just have to also come out as a member of the Dara fan club. I realize, Dara, you are the person on the Zoom that I have known the longest on this Zoom. So going to turn it over to you to send us off with your DJ skills.
Hey y'all, so one of our panelists is having a birthday tomorrow. So if we can join in giving some love, some just deep gratitude, but just some love to Tanya Fields. It is her birthday tomorrow. So y'all know we gotta do it. We gotta do it the right way though, you know. We gotta yeah.
Yes.
How much we love you, and I think you would agree. But you think more perfectly than to have a world party on the day you came to be. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
So we just want to celebrate you, love up on you. You are in deep sisterhood and community. So this is a beautiful panel. And yes, Sabrina and I go way back. And Tanya, I think you are also the longest person I've known on this call too. And so it's a beautiful thing to have long, beautiful community to wrap you up and just know that you are always wrapped up in love, even when times feel rough and lonely. We got each other. And so just deep gratitude to all of you for this amazing call. And Cicely Garrett, thank you. Thank you for this. I am trying to be like an honorary, like behind the scenes. I don't know how you become a member of Lunar. You know, I'm not Asian, but you know, I'm down with the solidarity. I don't know how you become, because this sounds like a real cool kids club. So I'm trying to at least, you know, follow what y'all do, because this is dope. So
thank you. It means a lot to have all this love. And thank you everyone for joining us today. I know that many of our Giving Circle members were sad that they couldn't make this time. So thank you for letting us record this. We're going to share it with them. And awesome that everyone was so specific about their needs. That will be really helpful for us and for folks that we do share this recording with. So have a great night, everyone. And thank you again for being here with us in community.
Good night.
Everyone, happy birthday, Tanya.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care.
Enjoy your day.